Thank you. My name is Kris Surrette. I am from Tighe and Bond. I'm here to talk about the all-important Central Street Rehabilitation project that we have been working in partnership with the City of Peabody for a number of years, dating back to about 2017. These projects take years, both in the planning, securing of funding, design, and then now we are entering that all-important construction phase of the project. So it's a truly transformative project. I think it's fitting. Mayor Betancourt set the stage for us to expand upon what you'll expect as part of this project, duration, what some of the improvements are, and what are some of the project goals that we set as a designer with the City of Peabody that, based on the existing conditions, that we'll look to enhance and address as part of this construction project. So the City of Peabody, approximate population, about 55,000 people. Central Street on a daily average addresses about 28,000 vehicles per day. That is a tremendous amount of traffic because Central Street is really one of the key entry points into the city from surrounding North Shore communities, and it is a direct link to coastal areas on the North Shore. And it also directly services 114, 128, 129, Route 1. So it's a major contributor to the City of Peabody and the surrounding communities. The corridor itself, we'll get into the limits of our project, but the corridor itself has 3 locations that were identified through the state, through the Commonwealth, as high crash locations. So I think as we got through some of the identifying the project and securing the funding, noting these locations and with the amount of traffic really made this an eligible project because we are using state and federal fundings to pay for the construction of this project. So the project itself encompasses Central Street from Railroad Avenue all the way to Wilson Square and just beyond Wilson Square for Central Street. And then it also turns on Pulaski. So it's again from Wilson Square to about Gardner Street. So it's an L shape, and the real focal point of the project is Wilson Square. It's about 0.8 of a mile from Railroad Avenue and then extending up Pulaski Street. So it's about 0.8 of a mile in total. The estimated construction cost was about almost $19 million. So this project has been designed for the past, I would say, 2 to 3 years. And before that, it was through the city and us as Tighe and Bond worked to secure funding through the state of Massachusetts, through Mass DOT. So it's a multi-year process. A lot of these projects, especially with state and federal funding, take years to both develop a scope of work, come up with the funding schedule, get the design and construction documents approved, and also all of the permitting and right-of-way requirements. So it is a long process, but in the end, the product and the end result is worth it, and it is a key part of the mayor's visions for 2020-35 about increasing transportation and safety accommodations on a vital route such as Central Street. Part of that work, part of that $18 million contract, about $4 million of that work is dedicated to municipal infrastructure improvements. The mayor did note as far as water main infrastructure, drinking water improvements throughout the city. That will be built into this project as well. So we are extending, while the road is open, the improvement and upgrading of the drinking water system for that section of Peabody and Central Street specifically. Other sort of items that the city was looking to address, we met with the Main Street Committee, we met with local community organizations, was pedestrian scale lighting in the commercial areas. This was brought up several times as a really something to highlight the areas, to increase visibility and pedestrian safety, the ability to sort of highlight the commercial districts within Central Street. So this project does include sections of pedestrian scale lighting, so they're lower, more ornamental style lights that will, again, sort of have an overall aesthetic, improve the aesthetic of the corridor as we get to that final product. With me today is Rich Benevento. He works alongside me at Tighe and Bond. Rich is really instrumental with our firm with securing funding for projects such as Central Street with the cities and towns of the Commonwealth. I think having the ability for a city to work with Mass DOT, with the federal government, to secure $18 million of funding used for construction for a municipally led project is a tremendous opportunity for the city. And Rich is center stage within our company and with most of the municipalities in this area to secure that funding. So without that funding, this project would not be possible. So thank you, Rich. So projects such as Central Street is administered through the Mass DOT Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP process. So because of that, the state and the federal government pays 80% of the funds, the state pays the rest of the 20%. So the City of Peabody was responsible for securing design services through Tighe and Bond, through the other design agencies. They are responsible for securing any environmental permits, and they also are responsible for securing right-of-way, temporary easements, any sort of corner roundings for sidewalks, et cetera. So that's kind of how this project is broken up from a funding standpoint, but you can see a majority of that overall cost is absorbed by Mass DOT and FHWA. So the existing conditions, I don't think I have to tell anyone in this room what Central Street looks like and what the existing conditions that we've identified that need to be approved upon. But I'm going to. So the area the pavement is in poor condition, right? That road probably has not had an overlay or a pavement surface course in 20 years. We have a significant amount of utility trenches. The pavement is in a real state of disrepair. And as time goes on, it just gets worse and worse. It compounds every year. So one of the major components for us is to really rehabilitate the pavement box and to make that surface more user-friendly for vehicles, for your transit services, and for bicyclists too. We'll get into what the scope looks like, but I think the first and foremost is pavement, poor sidewalk conditions. Sidewalks, Mother Nature takes its toll on sidewalks. So sidewalks are either cracked or spalled or heaving. So sidewalks become an issue. I think traffic signals, there are traffic signals out there today, but I think the equipment is outdated. I mean, that's something that immediately is an improvement to an intersection or to a corridor. Improving traffic signal technology, because the equipment that's out there today is probably 20, 30 years old and it's considered outdated. It's like a computer. Take it out of the box, it's outdated the next day. The lack of bicycle facilities and pedestrian networks. Any sort of project now that receives state federal funding has to have bicycle accommodations, right? That goes with the multimodal visions of a community such as Peabody, and it also it moves along with your complete streets policies and the ability to encourage multimodal transportation to a city center and also a main throughway such as Central Street. So why is this project different than just an overall repaving project, right? Why is this taking 3 years, 4 years of construction? We alluded to that in opening remarks. I do have a set of plans in the back of the room if anyone wants to review the plans and go over, well, I live here, or my business is here, what's it gonna look like? So we do have a set of plans in the back that we can review after the session closes. But this is not your typical paving project. This is a complete replacement of the corridor. It's from, I always say, back of sidewalk to back of sidewalk. Everything in the middle is pretty much new. New drinking water system, new drainage system, sidewalks, curbing, traffic signals, addition of street trees, landscaped areas. So it's an overhaul. It's not just a facelift of the corridor. So the amount of time that it takes to do that on a road as busy as Central Street is really reflective in the duration of the contract with the contractor and with Mass DOT. So we anticipate the project's conclusion in October of 2027. That's what it's scheduled for right now. Work will begin in the next month or so. It will be slow to start. You'll see contractors out there, National Grid Gas, MDR, who is the prime contractor. You'll see MDR trucks. They are the prime contractor on this project. But there's a lot of work that's to be done with a slow start, right? There's some gas relocations, there's exploratory work, what's in the ground, right? Where we show pipes here or there, we have to know where those are before we really get into the heavy construction. So there's a little bit of, it'll be a slow start, but once they get into gear, you'll start to see major construction on the corridor, I would say later in the spring and summer period with a lot of the underground utility work taking place. Other sort of items as part of the proposed improvements, I mentioned bicycle lanes, right? We want bicycle connectivity. We want new sidewalks, new traffic signals. The one thing that when we met with the Main Street Committee, what we wanted to do is we wanted to make this sort of an area with additional amenities such as street trees, placemaking areas, really identifying the Wilson Square area where we can reclaim some of the asphalt in that wide open intersection, have an opportunity to plant some street trees, some low plantings, include a sort of a low wall that acts as a gateway area into the City of Peabody from 114. So I think the beautification of that area is something that we looked for and identified through the planning process and is reflective in what we've put out as a final product that will be built in 2027, by 2027. I did note at one point the city's responsibility for right-of-way, and I wanted to give a congratulations to Will Politz, or acknowledgement to Will Politz, the director for Peabody Public Services. I think Will and his group, Public Services, was instrumental in securing the necessary temporary easements and permanent easements required for that project, because without that, this project would not have been advertised through Mass DOT. And that was a tremendous effort through Will and the department to get that secured through the city offices, because that is such a vital role or vital aspect of this project that oftentimes gets overlooked with these state and federally funded projects. So in total, it's about 130 temporary and permanent easements. And then we had to get agreements with MBTA, DCAM because of the Peabody Courthouse, and the Housing Authority. So the amount of coordination and permissions and administrative work required to do that is a tremendous feat on a project of this size. So thank you, Will, and thank you for all that helped to get that out. That is a major hurdle to get a project like this advertised and constructed. So as we do enter the construction phase, I did see a nice description in the packet on the table as far as a breakdown of what to expect year by year for construction activities. That's a broad brush of what to expect. I already touched on sort of interim or next steps with utility work this summer and some of the gas work this summer. So they'll start off slow, but as you get into next year, you'll start to see a lot of that full depth road reconstruction, excavation, asphalt, sidewalks. So a lot of that heavy earthwork probably won't start until next season. So April to October of 2025. It is a multi-year project. One of the biggest questions that we get is how traffic is controlled and how are we going to access properties adjacent to the project. There are stipulations set forth in the contract that say traffic will be maintained at all times, especially for transit, because this is an MBTA route. Transit, emergency response are two very critical aspects that the contractor has recognized, and we will work with the contractor through Will in the city. We have meetings with them every week or bi-weekly with Mass DOT, the contractor, and the city to come up with plans for communication for lane closures, or shoulder closures, or traffic management plans that is all communicated with the city and ultimately approved by the city. So it is a constant communication between all parties that make a project like this successful from a community interaction and standpoint. Thank you.